In the sanctuary city of Denver, all hell has broken loose.
Denver has a population of 700,000 people. And just the last year, nearly 40,000 migrants have arrived. The mayor declaring a state of emergency.
The city of Denver has issued an emergency declaration after hundreds of undocumented migrants came to the Mile High City unexpectedly. The recent migrant influx putting a massive strain on the city's resources.
Denver, Colorado is a sanctuary city, meaning if you're an illegal immigrant or a migrant, whichever one you choose to call it, and you make it to Denver, they will give you sanctuary from the federal government and will not cooperate to send you back to your home country. That's what it means to be a sanctuary city. They will give you sanctuary. Now, our story begins with President Trump having this wonderful idea when he was president. He said he doesn't want to be known as someone who's anti-immigrant. So, because federal law is what it is, he's going to start busing migrants to sanctuary cities because sanctuary cities want migrants. Here's President Trump saying that.
They want more people in their sanctuary cities. Well, we'll give them more people. We can give them a lot. We can give them an unlimited supply. And let's see if they're so happy. They say we have open arms. They're always saying they have open arms. Let's see if they have open arms.
Now, Trump lost the election and Biden came in. But Biden wasn't going to ship people to sanctuary cities. He just was going to let them all come across the border willy-nilly.
Let's get to the crisis at the southern border now. And the staggering new record, more migrants crossed into the U.S. on Monday than any other day in history.
So as you see, the border just went out of control. So the governor of Texas said, well, Trump's idea of sending these people to sanctuary cities was actually a pretty good idea. It would help us save resources, and they want those migrants. So he started busing them to sanctuary cities.
An influx of migrants to New York and other sanctuary cities is testing their already strained social safety nets.
And now Texas is sharing our pain with the rest of the country.
Now, to be fair, at the beginning, the mayors of these sanctuary cities were like, hey, we can take care of the migrants. Do your worst.
From Oakland?
This is an outrageous abuse of power and public resources.
To Seattle.
We in Seattle, in this region, will stand up against a president who divides America.
To San Jose.
The threats of the president certainly don't amount to threats to us.
The city's leaders, including Chicago's incoming mayor, Lori Lightfoot, saying they will welcome migrants.
And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that people who come to the city, whatever their immigration status is, are going to be treated fairly and with respect.
So when the threat of busing migrants came, here is what the then mayor of Denver said when someone asked him, or would you be accepting to migrants who come to the city?
But just to be clear, are you saying that you would accept any migrants who were bused to Denver, as mayors of Chicago and Philadelphia have said?
We've always said we will be a welcoming city for folks who are seeking asylum in our city. We recognize that many of these people, of course, are fleeing violence in their own countries.
So as you see, Denver is a sanctuary welcoming city. So what do? Abbott said, well, let's send them their migrants.
The city of Denver has issued an emergency declaration after hundreds of undocumented migrants came to the Mile High City unexpectedly. The recent migrant influx putting a massive strain on the city's resources at a cost of more than $800,000.
Tonight, Denver joining the growing list of cities struggling to handle a record surge of migrants, with entire blocks full of migrants sleeping on the street.
Oh, it is a crisis.
Mike Johnston is one of 5 Democratic mayors recently writing President Biden, saying action is needed to help cities address the crisis.
All new tonight at 10 buses arrived in Denver today with 341 migrants inside. The city says Denver is on track for receiving 100 migrant buses just this month.
Tonight, one of Colorado's largest hospitals facing a crisis. Physicians at Denver Health telling us they treat everyone who comes to the ER regardless of immigration status or ability to pay. But they're struggling to handle a spike in migrant patients.
So Denver's in trouble, but they took a different tact than New York and Chicago. They just straight up said, hey, we're still a sanctuary city, but if you come to Denver, you're on your own. We're not helping you out at all. Take a look.
Just now in Denver when it comes to how the city is going to address migrants that arrive here in the city.
Since December, the city has sheltered more than 6,000 migrants and spent more than $12 million on that effort. Our Jasmine Aranis is live tonight in Denver. And Jasmine, we've learned the city will now follow federal guidance when it comes to sheltering new migrants.
Good evening, Michael. After May 8th, now migrants that arrive in the city will not be provided with shelter or even financial help from the city. And this comes as disheartening news to some nonprofit organizations that have worked with these migrants by providing them with shelter and resources. They say May 8th is just around the corner. It's not enough time.
Nearly 38,000 migrants have arrived in Denver since Texas began busing them there in December of 2022. With us now is Denver Mayor Mike Johnston. Mayor, it's always great seeing you. I thank you for your time. Just wondering, what kind of an impact is the migrant humanitarian crisis having on Denver?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It is definitely both a humanitarian crisis for the migrants that are arriving, and it is creating a fiscal crisis for the city. As you mentioned, we've now had more than 36,000 migrants arrive, and these are people with incredible stories. These are people that are literally the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. These are teachers and police officers and nurses and engineers who have walked 3,000 miles to get to this country, and all they want is the chance to work and support themselves and their families. So there are heartbreaking stories every day. But we also know that without federal support and without federal action, the impact on a city like Denver is this would be a $180 million impact on our budget in 2024. That's more than 10% of our entire city budget. And so we believe there is a path to a solution here. There's going to be bipartisan agreement on how we can both increase access to work authorization, provide more support at the border, and get more federal resources. And we just need to make sure that that makes it through the House of Representatives, because otherwise cities like ours will be in deep crisis.
So we go from Denver saying, bring us as many migrants as we'll take it, we're a welcoming city, to now, well, we can't handle it all. There's just too many. And it's so funny how, as long as it's someone else's problem, cities like Denver, Chicago, and New York were all for migrants. We want as many migrants here. Now that they get inside here, it's not that they don't want migrants to come in. They just don't want migrants to go there. See, Chicago still says we want migrants to come in. We just don't want them in Chicago. New York says we want migrants to come in. We just don't want them in New York. And that's exactly what Denver's saying. And the state of Texas and Arizona are giving them what they asked for. You said you wanted migrants. You said you're giving them sanctuary. What the hell does it mean to be a sanctuary city anyway if the people who want sanctuary can't get to the city, right? It just doesn't make any sense. But this is how you call them out on their BS, right? Denver is no longer a sanctuary city. It says it is, but it's really not. No, neither is New York or Chicago. They're playing the game because they have political capital invested in this. But as things continue to deteriorate, people are going to look at videos like this and clips like this and say, my God, why did I vote for this person? The person who said for the migrants that come in, that's the problem. It's not Abbott. And things are actually even turning in cities like Chicago. Here are some of the community activists that helped get Brandon Johnston, the Democratic mayor of Chicago, elected. Listen to what they're saying now.
I'm standing here tonight with buyer's remorse, because I supported Mayor Brandon Johnston. I feel like a fool right now. I feel like a plum fool. But I tell you what, it's okay. Because as I said last night, you can slap us in the face by ignoring us today, but we are punching you in the face by ignoring you at the polling places tomorrow.
More and more black Democrats in Chicago are saying enough is enough when it comes to Biden's migrant crisis.
So in Chicago, illegal immigrants get laundry services, mental health screenings, housing subsidies, and a government ID.
Chicago resident Kata Truss is one Democrat who teamed up with her neighbors, joined others to sue the city over plans to turn a community center into a migrant shelter.
Well, what I say to President Biden and the entire Democratic Party is that you have missed the mark with this. And you have lost some very committed voters. I myself will be voting Republican in this upcoming election. I have just made up in my mind that this crisis taught me that the Democratic Party will continue to take the voices of the voters for granted. I reached out to every elected official that represents us in this area to sit down and have a conversation about what was happening. And my phone calls went unanswered. No meetings took place. No elected official stood up or stood with us to fight with us. And even after having gone to City Hall with hundreds of people saying, listen, this is not working. We need to end Chicago's sanctuary city status, at least until we have a hold on what's happening here, at least until we have found a place for the migrants who have already come. And that was back in October. And so buses are still arriving. We are now at 33,000 migrants that have embraced themselves in the city of Chicago, and we really have no means to take care of them. We don't have an adequate place for those people to stay. And so to continue to have them come here, to me, just does not make any sense. And so when you say that to both local government as well as the President Biden, and no one is listening, we the people have to say, well, you know what? If you're not going to listen to us, then we're going to need to take our votes elsewhere.
I couldn't have explained it better myself. Unfortunately, you may want to help everybody, but you can't. We can't afford it. We just don't have the money. And unfortunately, this woman has finally woken up to the realization that we were screwed by the Democrats. We were screwed. They are now paying all this money for the migrants and the resources that are supposed to be going to the communities of color that the Democrats are supposed to be championing aren't. They're going other places. And I feel the frustration of this woman. But at the end of the day, she voted in these people and now they're suffering. So now it's time for them to do their civic duty and vote them out. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment section. Let me know if you think Brandon Johnston is going to be voted out as mayor of Chicago. And let me know what you think about Denver, because Denver it's insane in Denver, right? They almost had an extra 5% of the population just in Denver alone. So, they're a sanctuary city, but I think they're a sanctuary city only in name only, because they're essentially saying if you get them here, you're on your own. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Lloyd, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.